So ours is the age of the strongmen. It's a term I use to denote authoritarian heads of state who damage or destroy democracy and use masculinity as a term, as a tool of political legitimacy. Such rulers now govern Turkey, Brazil, Russia, and many other geopolitically important nations. Their dependence on corruption and disinformation, their neglect of the public good, and their refusal of accountability mean they handle national crises badly, with climate change likely to cause increased levels of disease and scarcity, and the pandemic still raging. The spread of the strongman style of rule doesn't just endanger democracy, but can pose an existential threat. So I want to start by talking about why I wrote this book. So first, as a historian, I was very concerned about the ongoing revisionism by anti-democratic forces around the world that aims to whitewash both communist and right-wing authoritarian violence. So we have Putin, who erects statues to Stalin, but sends historians who write about the gulags in the wrong way to prison. He's made it illegal to mention the Nazi-Soviet pact. Bolsonaro in Brazil is among many who, on the right, who spread the idea that fascism was a left-wing movement and remained a left-wing movement in order to blame its violence on the left and leave the right with clean hands. In America, far-right groups entwine nostalgia for the legacy of state-sanctioned racism and violence, from fascist regimes to the Confederate South to Cold War juntas. At a rally in September 2020, members of the Proud Boys wore T-shirts, so they had Confederate flags, but they also had T-shirts that proclaimed Pinochet did nothing wrong, referring to the Chilean dictator. Behind each of these talking points, and there are many more, are powerful information warfare strategies designed to produce the past that the right needs today, a past tailored to today's enemies of democracy. So to understand authoritarians, we need a historical and a global perspective. And Strongman is my response to this dangerous situation. The current war on the truth and the rewriting of the history of states that disappeared bodies of information, as well as the physical bodies of their enemies, prompted me to set the record straight, using archival documents, testimonies with survivors of regimes. I went to Santiago to interview several people, and myriad other sources. It is why I discuss the torture techniques of Pinochet and his Operation Condor allies in detail. It's why I take on cherished myths perpetuated by generations of authoritarians and their American PR firms, such as the idea that those leaders are omnipotent grand strategists and their states have been efficient and productive political systems. This is the Mussolini made the trains run on time idea that's endured over a century for several countries. So my study highlights the chaos, the corruption, the violence, and the dysfunction that have characterized illiberal states. And we don't hear nearly enough, for example, about how the states of Erdogan in Turkey and Putin in Russia today function essentially as predatory entities. They seize billions of dollars of businesses and real estate and other assets. So we don't hear about that. We don't hear about the destructiveness for small business, the ruination of generations of family businesses built up over generations, and the waste that comes when talented people are forced into exile or sent to jail.